had to admit the guest of honor was right. She had only one thing on her mind. The chart was of cursory interest at best, but there was one thing she needed to change. With a few deft strokes, she slated herself to sit squarely next to Reese Ronell, Aurora's oldest brother. Just the thought of it made her all fluttery, and a cascade of glittery neon butterflies broke out around her head. Thankfully, no one else was around to tease her over her inability to control her powers. So she ignored them, and they eventually fluttered off to do whatever magical neon butterflies did. Switching her seat meant moving Onyx Ronell down the table, and Tiffany froze when she saw who she was putting him next to. "Are you kidding?" she whispered. Ryan Glittermist. That was going to make for an interesting evening. Ever since Nathan had called it off with the flamboyant singer, Ryan had studiously avoided any casual invitations to Hollow House. Aurora and Dane's farewell dinner might just be the exception. Setting out the cards, she came across one that had been needling her since she first saw the guest list. A single question mark. It took up residence directly next to Nathan's spot. If Tiffany's suspicions were right, sparks were gonna fly, for sure. Don't tell me that Lady Pearl's actually let someone else handle something. Feeling momentarily caught, Tiffany looked up to find Kelly leaning against the doorframe, lazily licking her spoon before diving back into a pint of ice cream. "I know, right?" Tiffany lowered her voice to a conspiratorial tone. "I think Dane is having a good effect on her." "He'd better," Kelly said with a wicked little grin. "The great Dane." They shared a giggle, only to be interrupted by someone knocking on the front door. "Shit," Kelly said, looking down at her clothes. She wore a cut-off tee and pajama bottoms, her normal bedroom attire. Tiffany had made a point of dressing up for the party, but since her wardrobe was all black tank tops and safety pins anyway, it was a small matter. "You head on up," she said. "I'll cover things here." As Kelly hustled up the stairs, Tiffany straightened and made for the door. She pulled it open to find a burly, bearded mountain of a man filling the doorway with his hotness. His long brown hair was pulled back in a high bun, and there was a sprinkling of tiny flowers tucked into his beard. Judging by the creamy pallor of his skin and the two tiny fangs just peeking out of his lips, he was a vampire. "Oh, hello?" He looked a little surprised, like maybe he'd knocked on the wrong door. "Hey, you here for the party?" After several seconds of rapid blinking, he shook his head slightly and smiled at Tiffany. It was a nice smile, despite the flowers and the beard. "I hope I'm not too early." Nathan said, "Of course you're Nathan's friend." She did what she could to keep from putting too much emphasis on the word friend, though the blossoms adorning him should have been a clue. "Those are a nice touch." Nathan said to dress up, and this is about as good as it gets. Tiffany wasn't one to judge other people's style choices, but even she might have worn something a little smarter than a flannel shirt, jeans, and work boots. But they looked clean, and at least the shirt was a nice solid blue, not that hideous black and red plaid. "Come on in." She swept to the side and led the new guest into the dining room. "Things are still getting set up," she said, leaning over to light the candles. "Do you want a drink or anything, Mr. Baines?" the man said in a soft, self-effacing voice. "Nero Baines. I think maybe—" "He'll have a beer." Nathan appeared in the doorway leading to the kitchen. "Don't worry, I'll get it. Glad you could make it, Nero." "Thanks for inviting me. Nice to see you got dressed up for the occasion." He smiled lightly, but there was a wicked twinkle in his eye that tickled Tiffany. Nathan, who was in his usual shirtless state, just shrugged. "Just another day at the office. Come on." Tiffany paid casual attention to whatever pleasantries they were exchanging in the kitchen, purely for the sake of gossiping with Kelly later. Nero was about as opposite from Ryan as a guy could get, though he was sexy in his own way. She couldn't catch any hint of chemistry between them, but any bit of gossip was good gossip, as far as Kelly was concerned. When the doorbell rang, Tiffany nearly jumped out of her skin. People were starting to arrive, and one of them would be Reese. Prancing to the door, she took a second to check her makeup in the mirror in the entryway. She'd gone heavy on